Hello, fellow people, and I'll be doing a top 10 list on the greatest Transformers of 2022. Now then, to note, this is mostly based on my opinion. So, without further ado, and without wasting any more of your time, let's get on with the video. Starting off low on this list with Legacy Kickback. So, why do I actually don't hate the figure. I actually like him. Though like Perspective and said with Earthrise Grapple, a really good update on the figure. On the figure turns out to be a boring one. And this is one of them. So you can see here that he's in a cool pose, which honestly that's kind of the only thing that he can do. I don't know, my brain's failing me with this. And he doesn't look bad. I like how they integrated the realistic bug detailing with the G1 detailing, as you can see right there on the reflection. Pretty cool. And yeah, I love his accessories. They are pretty cool, though they are kind of useless in robot mode, considering how his gun is loose whenever it's plugged onto any hand. Like, why? The gun's mostly useless on both modes, sadly, and it looks pretty cool. I love the painting and sculpting, and the metallic colors that pretty much attract me. But then again, a lot of metallic colors attract me. And aside from the paint mishaps, this figure looks pretty good. And his bug mode, it looks alright. Though the swords aren't entirely useless in grasshopper mode, you can actually make them form an abdomen or a thorax for the grasshopper mode, which I honestly find pretty cool. And here's how it looks. Hold on. Okay, so here we have him in grasshopper mode. It looks alright. I don't really like how it looks, especially on the back side of things. And you can place these swords over here in this coincidentally placed port. And there you go. I love the optional parts forming to where you can give them an abdomen, to be honest. It's more better than placing it in the wings, which I honestly don't really like. I always prefer doing it in robot mode either way. So yeah, overall I think this figure is good, but it's kind of boring to say the least. So let's move on to number 9. Moving on to number 9 being Legacy Skids. I actually really like the figure itself. He has a pretty good robot mode, and his vehicle mode is not that bad. And transformation is also pretty good. So, why is he also low on the list? Well, he has some problems that kind of make him low on the list. For example, his head popping off when transforming. The fact that they literally used red plastic for the chest. And here's how much red is there. There is. They should have just made it black, to be honest. And if you look closely, you can see not only my finger, but you can also see some red plastic bleeding through. That kind of stands out, to be honest. As well as how the back of the thighs and the door wings can be a paint to transform, and how this double-barreled wrist-mounted cannon can be a pain to get out. Which is why I usually leave it like that instead of just putting it deep in there. If you have the figure, I would advise you at least sand down the peg so it doesn't break at some point. Yeah. Anyways, other than that, this is a pretty good update on Skids. And accessories are also pretty fun. You can see it comes with his wrist-mounted cannons as well as the Energon axe, which also forms a gun. A cool thing about them, you can make a combined weapon out of it. And here's the combined weapon. And it doesn't really look bad. And what's funny about the axe weapon, if you place it on top of his Honda City turbo car mode, you can see how it looks like an arrow. I honestly find that pretty funny, to say the least. And it gives him an extra boost due to the barrel being on the back instead of facing the front. Yeah. Overall, this is a pretty good figure. There's just some problems with him that kind of make him low on the list. So, let's move on to number 8. racing our way to number 8, it's Legacy of Velocitron Speedia 500 Collection Deluxe Class Blur. Or Legacy IDW Blur, I should have said that earlier. So, this figure looks pretty good. And I actually really like him. His transformation's fun, his ult mode's pretty cool. I like how they remolded a lot of the ult mode instead of just leaving it the same. And his accessories are pretty cool. I also like how he's an 86 remold, and yet it fits so well in an IDW style. This figure just proves that. Though I don't like how his legs are lanky and thin, while his shoulders are bulky and large. That didn't sound right. That didn't sound right. And it makes him look like Palpatine. I'm sorry I had to say that. Someone had to say it though. His accessories are pretty good. He comes with his rifle, as shown here, and his welding tool. I'm not really a fan of the welding tool, which is why I usually place it on his back, as shown there. And like I said earlier, you can place it inside his back. Just doing that. And there you go. Now, a cool thing about it is that it won't hinder the transformation. And it actually works in vehicle mode. So, be right back to show you that. Here we have the vehicle mode. Like I said, it's pretty cool. Though this reminds me of some sort of shaver. I'm not sure why. And there you go. You can see the welding tool. There's nowhere you can place this aside from placing it on the front as intended. Wait, what? Yeah, there you go. As intended. Or you could place this on the thrusters, which honestly that does not look as great as wheeljacks. And you could place this on one of the foots, so you can make him in some sort of racing pose. Yeah. You have some imagination. You can have some imagination with this. So yeah, let's move on to number 7. So moving on to number 7, we have Legacy Knockout, and there's no going around this. He's an 86 Jazz reshell. Like, you can clearly tell in robot mode, though there are a few different things about him. To where they didn't just change his car parts and head. They also changed his wrists, thighs, and feet. That's kind of all of the changes as well. I just forgot to mention the backpack. I also forgot to mention the fact that they also remolded the backpack on how it connects to the back. Anyways, he has a few accessories, and luckily it's not Jazz's accessories, because they did that with Jackpot, and honestly, that would have made me angry. So he has a rifle and a shield, and there's another option you can do with it. If you don't want him to have that, and you want him to have a trident like he did in the show, you could do that. Yeah, he's G1ified. I don't really seem to mind that, considering how this figure is still pretty good. So yeah, let's just move on to his vehicle mode now, shall we? So here we have him in alt mode. And yeah, when comparing him to 86 Jazz, this is another story. They look entirely different. Well, except for the wheels, but just ignore that. Honestly, I'm impressed how they made a Porsche Martini into I'm not sure what his alt mode is. I looked it up. It said it's an Aston Martin. I still don't believe that. Anyways, it's still pretty cool how they managed to do that. It looks like an entirely different vehicle, or an entirely different mold. Though I don't really like how the weapons plug in, but hey, at least the alt mode still looks good. So let's just move on to number 6. So moving on to number 6, we have the Yellow Wing Duo. It's more visible on Tigatron since I've had him since Colt Studio was still active. Or January 2022, for short. But anyways, yeah, let's just start with Tigatron first, because I can't put him in the sunlight for too long, or he'll yellow, just like Ratchet. But at least he still has time. But anyways, I really like this figure. He has a pretty good looking robot mode. He actually has the gut gun instead of just having the tail whip, because honestly if that did, he would have ranked lower. Anyways, So yeah, I don't like how he's yellowing, but he's still a pretty good figure. I kind of wish they integrated the tail into the transformation more instead of just making it a separate piece. Because honestly, I don't really like this accessory. But other than that, the transformation is pretty fun, and the resulting Leucistic Tiger mode. And here we have him in his Tiger mode, and it's actually pretty good. So what I find pretty cool is how they actually fill out most of the stomach instead of just making it a hollow space in the middle, as you can see there. I like how they added gap fillers, considering they bulked up the thighs so that the legs wouldn't look weird, like they did with Cheetor. Honestly, I'm glad that he did that. And the tiger head is still pretty good. And the resulting tiger mode, the resulting Leucistic Tiger mode, is still pretty good. As for the head, it still looks pretty good. Sure, I didn't customize it a bit, and sure, I did not fix the eye issue, but still pretty good. You can see the yellowing bits. Yeah, there is not much else to talk about with Tigatron. He's just a pretty good figure in general. The same could be said about Ratchet. His robot mode's pretty good. I love his accessory of him having this large cannon that's about the size of his leg. And yeah, and I like how he has weapon storage, which Tigatron never had, sadly. Anyways, so yeah. There's not much else to talk about since this is a live action figure and I'd be here all day. So let's just move on to his vehicle mode. And here we have him in his ambulance mode. It's still pretty good. It is pretty small, though I still like it. It rolls around, and it does look like a Cybertronian vehicle instead of just something made out of metal. I don't know how to describe it. Anyways, and I like how the cannon can be plugged on top, and without the cannon it still looks pretty good, and there's no kibble issues, so you don't have to worry about that. And I also love how they made an outline to where Ratchet can actually fit out of the head, out of this place. It's pretty cool, and I'm glad they didn't do a faux forming chest, because honestly that would have been a mess. Yeah, and I love how the shoulder stacks can actually act as either medical kits or a light bar. Yeah. So now that I finished talking about the Yellowwing duo, let's move on to number 5. So, moving into number 5, we have Legacy Laser Prime. So, this figure is a Voyager class, which honestly, there's no way going around that. He is a Voyager class figure in the deluxe, in the leader class price point. To be fair, there is apparently going to be an 86 Commander class Ultra Magnus, so that's no longer surprising that they're doing this. But anyways, this figure is really good. I love his robot mode. His tanker base is pretty cool, and I love his accessories, though I don't like how they look when combined. And I love how he comes with a newer Matrix. I'm not sure if I have heard this is a newer Matrix from some people, and that it isn't just a reuse of the Earthrise Matrix. So that's a relief. Oh frick! Oh, there it is. As you can see right here, it's a bit flatter, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. And I like how they gave him missile pods on his shoulders. That's honestly a pretty cool feature that he has. And the tanker base is pretty cool. So I have nothing else to say about the vehicle mode. Wait, what? The robot mode? So let's just move on to his vehicle mode. And here we have him transforming it into his truck mode. I'm not sure what it is. Though what I find pretty cool is how he has weapon storage in both his truck mode and his tanker. So here's how they look. Here's how it looks with the storage in truck mode. And frick. There you go. And you can also place them inside his tanker as well, which honestly is pretty cool how you have options on where you want to store the weapons. And just close that up. and the resulting tanker is actually pretty good. I also love his transformation. It is more complex, and it does some things you would honestly didn't expect. So yeah, let's just move on to number 4. Moving on to number 4, we have CD Series Age of Extinction Galvatron. Now, what I find funny is how this is probably the only Michael Bay figure that in this top 10. Pretty ironic, to be honest. Anyway, so this figure is actually really good. I like his robot mode, even though it's a bit boxy. That's mostly due to how the movie designers just gave up halfway and gave the middle finger to the toy designers. I like some of his accessories. I don't like how this cannon is small though, and I kind of wish he came with another set of missile pods. But that's alright. And you can store this inside his chest, as demonstrated here. And yeah, overall this is a really good Galvatron figure. Yeah, I have nothing else to say about the robot mode. There is not much else to say. It's just a really good robot mode. Now the transformation is actually pretty fun to do. It is a bit complex, but I got the hang of it. So let's just move on to his old mode. And here we have him in his Freightliner Argosy mode. So what I find pretty cool is how you can actually store these weapons onto the truck without it being visible. The only exception to that is his missile pods, which honestly that's also pretty cool, because you have an option where you can place them inside of here, or you can place them on the sides of his truck mode, as like in the movies. Pretty cool. There's a reason why I said I wish that he came with 2 instead of just 1. Anyways, so yeah, I'm also surprised that they even got the licensing for from Freightliner to do this truck mode. Like that's a lot of kibble. I don't think they would have allowed that, but still, pretty surprising to say the least. This is a really good figure, and let's just move on to number 4. So moving our way to 3rd place, and yeah, she's holding you at gunpoint. But anyways, moving our way to 3rd place, we have Legacy Override. I've never reviewed her yet, so yeah, this is gonna be a small preview. She's really great. So I like her robot mode. It looks pretty accurate, and it does look good for an updated form for Override. Her weapon is alright. I don't have that much knowledge on Transformers Cybertron since I was not born at that time. Yeah. I like how they painted the rims. They painted the rims instead of just leaving it red, because honestly, that would have made me lose my sanity. And the transformation is pretty fun, and the vehicle mode is pretty good. So let's just move on to the vehicle mode. And here we have her in vehicle mode. Honestly, I really love the vehicle mode. Just look at this. It's fairly accurate, and I like how they added the sort of curve on the vehicle mode. Like, I thought this would be hard to actually do, but no, it turns out it isn't. Though I'm still confused. Though I don't like how the headlights are not painted. It looks weird. And I'm still confused why this was a Voyager class figure when it's more or less the size of a large deluxe rather than a Voyager. I'm guessing that's due to how she was originally going to be a remold of 86 Hot Rod. And honestly, I'm glad they made this a new mold. This is just really great. So yeah, let's just move on to the second bit. Let's just move on to number 2, to say the least. Moving on to number 2, we have Legacy Bulkhead. So, this figure is G1ified, obviously. It's a Prime character. Anyways, so I find this figure really great. Like, I don't have any problems with him. His robot mode's pretty good. His transformation's pretty fun, and it's pretty interesting as well. And his alt mode is really interesting as well. Yeah. I love his accessories. I love how they gave him his club, and they gave him a Gatling gun. And yeah, there's not much else to say. And I like how they gave us this tarp shield piece. It shouldn't really work properly as a shield, considering how it's mostly cloth with a metal frame on it. Anyways, you can plug this onto his hand, as shown right here, or you could plug it onto his back, which I mostly prefer. Anyways, so yeah, let's just move on to his vehicle mode now, shall we? And here we have him in alt mode. Honestly, I love the fact that he's a military vehicle, and honestly, it looks pretty good. It looks like a, a more cartoonish version of a Robot H-18, and I really like that idea. You can see how the feet become some, I have no idea how to describe it, but they basically cover up part of the canopy. That's pretty cool. And because the canopy itself is a parts forming piece, yeah, you can do this. Honestly, it doesn't look bad even without the canopy, though it does show the legs. So overall, this is a really great figure. Let's just move on to some honorable mentions before we get to number 1. So, we have a tie between these two for number 1. Studio Series movie Core Class Shockwave and Transformers Legacy Core Class Iguanus. Yeah, it's ironic how these two are Core Class figures and are number 1, and Soundwave was number 1 last year. Anyways, so yeah, these two. So, why are they number 1? Well, I don't really have any sort of problems with them. They're actually fun to mess around with. They're pocket-sized, meaning you could take them anywhere. And their transformations are pretty fun. Anyways, Shockwave's, yeah, he's based off of the Bowie movie design, and I really like it. I like how there's absolutely no kibble on the back, and that isn't really a problem for me though. And I just like how he looks in general. And he comes with this cannon, which is pretty cool. And Iguanus. The concept of him being mixed with his Pretender shell is just really awesome. I don't really like his gun though. And yeah, there's not much else to say about him in robot mode. And his transformation's also pretty fun. So, speaking of which, let's transform them into their alt modes. And then we have them in alt mode. So, starting off with Shockwave first. Yeah, he's based off of the Prime design with the tank mode, and honestly, that's a really cool alt mode for him. Yeah, there's not much else to say. Also, you can see him poothing on the back. You can also do it on the front as well if you wish. Honestly, this is a really cool tank mode, and seeing the fact that it's based off of the Prime design, and the fact that it's also live action like, is a pretty cool combination. And then we have Iguanus. His alt mode's based off of his G1 toy, and I like how they used some of his robot mode parts as part of the motorcycle, like the tail being a seat, and how the chest could somewhat act as an engine. Yeah. And overall, I find them pretty cool how they managed to do the wheels. Like, seriously, I would never have thought of that. And yeah, that's all I have to say. This has been a pretty weird year in personal life, but for Transformers, it was a pretty good year. So, this is basically it for this video, and I'll see you guys next year.